on today's StoryBeat.
In college, I was in Franklin Hall, a dormitory, and I used to go into the laundry room. And I would practice and practice and practice. And, and the people would be coming in and out of the laundry. And I'm in there going, ha, 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 ha. And I said, sorry, guys, sorry. I did have the cleanest clothes on campus.
This is StoryBeat with Steve Cuden, a podcast for the creative mind. StoryBeat explores how masters of creativity develop and produce brilliant works that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Well, you're likely to already be a fan of my guest today, veteran theater and film actor James Sutorius, who's performed for the most prestigious regional and repertory theater companies, including the Old Globe, La Jolla Playhouse, Center Theater Group, South Coast Repertory, and Pasadena Playhouse. He's also performed at Lincoln Center, the Yale Repertory, Wharf Theatre, Seattle Repertory, and many more. In 2007, he won 2 San Diego Theater Critics Awards for his performance as George in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and for his multiple supporting roles in John Strand's play Lincolnesque. James made his Broadway debut in 1973 in The Changing Room. In his very first entrance as a member of a rugby team, he had to walk downstage and strip off all of his clothes. Instead of finding the experience terrifying, he actually found it liberating. And he played Laertes opposite Sam Waterston's Hamlet at the Vivian Beaumont Theater, alongside a cast of rising stars, including Jane Alexander, Mandy Patinkin, George Hearn and John Heard. Most recently, James was seen on Broadway in Aaron Sorkin's play The Farnsworth Invention, that was directed by Des McAnuff and produced by Steven Spielberg. James was the voice for Ragu's spaghetti sauce for 17 years, spawning the national catchphrase, "Now that's Italian." He continues to pitch other products for Coca-Cola and Wrangler jeans. He also lends his distinctive voice to audiobooks and short story anthologies on tape. On TV, James's break came when he starred as investigative reporter Mike Andros in the Andros Targets. He's also appeared on TV shows like Dynasty, Cannon, Kojak, Saint Elsewhere, Family Ties, 21 Jump Street, Murder, She Wrote, LA Law, The X-Files, Judging Amy, and many more. And he was a regular on Bob Crane's short-lived sitcom, The Bob Crane Show. Additionally, he's appeared in such notable TV movies as A Death in Canaan, A Question of Love, Skokie, Space, and On Wings of Eagles. In feature films, James can be seen in Dancing as Fast as I Can, starring Jill Clayburgh, and Windy City with John Shea and Kate Capshaw. So for all those reasons and many more, it's my great honor and privilege to welcome the extraordinarily talented actor James Sutorius to StoryBeat today. James, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, who is that person?
I don't know. You have to tell me.
I don't know. I'm going to do this naked too. That naked part was good for the.
Well, I will share the experience.
Well, it was amazing coming to change. I mean, it was a rugby team, and there was all of us. It wasn't just me, but it was a whole team. And there was John Lithgow, who became a star, by the way, after
Right,
he changed
sure.
from. And then he won the Best Supporting Actor that year, won the Tony. But we all came on, and we just took off our clothes, and my folks are sitting in the third row, and they're going, "Oh my God, my son, what are you doing?" And so I said, "Sorry, Mom, it's just the way." But I tended to be playing. What was my name in that? Bobby or something? I don't know. It's so long ago.
That's a while ago.
At the Morosco Theater, and which is gone. But I tended to be, because we came back on after the rugby game. The first intermission was halftime, but then after the game, we came back on and took off all our clothes again. And we got in the bath. And for some reason, I was the one that was naked the longest. I was out there, and they're, snapping the towels at me and all these things. And then some of my folks are going, "Oh my God, he's back," and doing it. It was great. It was great. It was a great beginning, and to do it. I mean, just to be on Broadway at that age and so young, it was just so exciting.
So many that I've spoken to on this show and elsewhere say that acting in particular is a kind of a calling. Was it a calling for you?
You know, no, I don't think it was. I mean, in high school, no, I wasn't the person that was 8 years old and 9 years old and knew, oh my God, I've got to be an actor. I just feel this. I saw The Wizard of Oz or something, and I want to, be whatever. But no, I mean, I was all sports. I was all sports. It was baseball and basketball in high school, and then, but there was some. And this is the odd part, which I was thinking before I came on, that somewhere in high school, must have been some humor. Something was going on. They had a varsity show or a variety show that high schools still do. And I had this interest in, I should have picked Bob Newhart, may he rest in peace. But I picked Shelley Berman, and Shelley Berman, a bitter guy. But on the variety show, I sat on the stool and I picked up the phone, and I was Shelley Berman. Hello,
Yes.
we haven't time for coffee, tea, or milk. We're doomed. That was the airplane one. And most people can tell you where it all comes from. But there is this that was a huge part of why I did any of this. But I suffered from a stutter. You hear that so often, it seems. But I had a stutter in high school, and it never goes away. I've just learned to control it and all those things, which is a whole conversation. But you would think I wouldn't be doing Shelley Berman, but I did. I was in a speech class, and Youngren said to me, you've got to be in a play. If you're not going to do a play, taking this speech class, I guess because of the impediment.
Does the stutter go away as you memorize things and you speak them on stage?
Well, for the most part, but sometimes it happens. It happens, and all of that you just read off that resume. I don't know what my nuts. And I was going to say, so I never raised, and this is in the one-man show, which I do, and talking about my journey. In high school, I never raised my hand in high school, ever. There was just too much fear.
Were you shy?
No, that was fear that the words wouldn't come out.
Ah, got it.
That it would be a stutter. No, I mean, and still, unless I'm really comfortable, if I really get nervous, it will happen. I've just learned in real life, people go, "What are you, crazy? What, you never you don't stutter." And I don't now, but I've learned how to control it. But back then in high school, you talk to my high school chums, who I still talk to a lot, and they said, "Well, of course you had a stutter." I mean, yes, yeah, well, you did. And but I'm doing Shelley Berman, and somewhere. And then he said, going back to about the teacher, you've got to do a play. And I don't want to be in a play. I'll do Shelley Berman for some reason, but I'm not. So he said, you're going to be in The Desperate Hours, which is a thriller about 3 escaped convicts.
Right.
Bogart played it. And so I did it, which I don't remember. Steve, it's so long ago. But I did it. And from that, I just felt something about it when the audience, and I just, this warmth that just enveloped me. So from that, I mean, I went to Illinois Wesleyan and I majored in drama. So something from Shelley Berman and The Desperate Hours and the thing, but it wasn't, sort of answer your question, it wasn't like something that I knew. No, but I decided to major in drama.
It wasn't a calling for you then, but it did get under your skin and you wanted to do more of it.
Well, it did. Maybe from the Shelley Berman, hearing the laughter. I mean, doing the play is vague to me right now. It's so long ago. But I went to Illinois Wesleyan down in Bloomington, Illinois, and I majored in drama and was there for 4 years, and then went to an acting. And I was hooked on Shakespeare. Yeah, no. But it isn't that story of somebody said, "Oh, I knew when I was 5 years old that I."
So why did you get hooked on Shakespeare? What was it about Shakespeare?
I think Richard Burton was part of that. In college, no, I'll tell you what it was. No, I'm wrong about that. It was in high school. My mother sent me to private lessons with a voice coach named Ed Hollitz at Wheaton College. And so Ed Hollitz, no, that's how it all, I'm going in Ed Hollitz. I don't know what to expect. I'm a senior in high school. And he says, here, he gives me a piece of paper and he says, read this. I said, I don't know what it was. And it was to be or not to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is the question. And I'm going on, and then I start stuttering. And he says, he said, I don't understand one word that you were saying. And I said, well, neither do I. And he says, it's because you don't know how to breathe, he said. And I said, well, I've been breathing for 18 years. Well, not properly. We changed my breathing from the chest. It was amazing. I don't remember my voice before this, but it was from the chest breathing, which most people do, to diaphragmatic, and the diaphragm, and you're supporting it, and it's like opera singers, and my voice really changed. I mean, it was amazing but I'm so disciplined then I just did all the exercises, Steve, and I was doing oh, that this tutu sa boom, 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 boom. Oh, no. Now the guy, my chums back in high school are going, James, no, it wasn't James, it was Jimbo, what's happening to you? You don't sound like you. And it's true, but I kept, and I just fell in love with Shakespeare at that time, just in my senior year. So that's how, now that I'm thinking back, that's why it's good I'm doing this interview. I remember my whole life now. That's why I then would have gone to Wesleyan and majored in drama, because Shakespeare right then. And then Richard Burton became a huge in my freshman year in college.
Is it that Shakespeare really works the tongue and works the way you move your jaw?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all in there, but it's just the wonderful words and just the impact of what he's the writing, and it's when you, and I fell in love with Hamlet and doing it because of starting with Ed Hollitz. And I mean, I never became a scholar or anything like that, but I just love the words and something about the doing bigger than life. And
Was there a moment as you were going along doing more and more where you thought to yourself, I am actually pretty good at doing this, where maybe I can make a career out of it?
I'm still waiting for that. I don't. Although everything you've read there, I was like, did I do all that? That's pretty impressive. Actually, I don't look back at that stuff very often. Thank you for that. Is there a time when I thought, yeah, I think I mean, well, there's always, I mean, the stutter was such a part of my life in college too. And so it's always the insecurity of, am I going to get through this thing? But there's some part of me that is just determined, and I loved it enough, and I wasn't going to give it up. And yeah, I think there was a strong part of my ego that knew there was something there.
Well, there must have also been people that said to you, you're good at this at the same time.
Yeah, no, of course they did. No, of course they did in college. And although John Ficca, the head of the department and everything, who directed the Hamlet I did there, it's tough. They're tough. And yeah, but that they respected you and thought you had the talent to be there. And but it was always but it's back and forth, as most actors are. There's the insecurities that sit there, and maybe that, and the fear. I think fear has driven me. I think actually the fear of some of this stuff drives me to determine. And my discipline always work so hard at. In college, I used to go to, I was in Franklin Hall, a dormitory, and I used to go into the laundry room, and I would practice and practice and practice, and and the people would coming in and out of the laundry, and I'm in there going, ha 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 ha, brr, brr, brr. I said, sorry guys, sorry. I did have the cleanest clothes on campus.
The cleanest clothes on campus.
Well, I'm in the laundry room all the time.
So you have stuck to doing lots of theater. You've done theater all throughout your career, even as you were doing movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Is there something special about the theater to you? What is it about it?
It just will always be the first love. It was always what I started. I had no intention of thinking that I'd be doing so much TV work, but that's when I needed to make a living. But no, that the theater was, and it is still my first love. I mean, the connection with the audience, with the theater, and the one-on-one, and you're there, and nobody can edit you and change you. And I love the rehearsal for the theater of 4 weeks. But I've had wonderful success with the TV and mainly TV. Films never really. You mentioned a few films, but films were never a huge part. Movies of the week, I did a lot of. 80s and 90s was when I made a living so much in.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Ragu came, which was huge. But go back. But the theater was always and going to Stratford in Canada, and I was just there a few months ago, and it's just always going back to the theater. It's just so ingrained in me. But there's something about when you're doing the movie of the week, and when I did the Andros Targets, there's something about that too that's wonderful. When you can go back and change and edit, and let's do it again. There's a freedom in that's nice. But,
so are there sorts of parts that you aim for, that you like to play? Are there types of roles that are your types and you look for those?
I don't know if there really are. I mean, I guess people think of me as being more of a serious actor. Maybe it's the Shakespeare part or something, but I always find humor in everything I do. If it's Hamlet or Macbeth or those things, or Henry. I mean, I tell you this, the things I don't like the restoration comedy and the farce and things like that. I'm certainly not. I want to do the Albies which I've done, the Albies and the Millers and the Mammoth and Aaron Sorkin and all of those, and Ibsen and Chekhov. And Chekhov I love, and so they tend to be more the shows, the plays that I look for that are. I just think the writing is, but people love restoration comedy and those things. It just is a technical ability. I don't know. It just never has interested me, and maybe that goes back to the stutter.
You clearly love language and the way that language plays.
I do. Well, I love, yeah, I do. Dylan Thomas is one of my favorite poets and writers, and not that I'm a big poetry, and but I used to do poetry readings in college. They had a coffee shop, and I would go in there and do love poetry, John Keats and Cyrano de Bergerac, which was a part that I would love to have played when I was younger, and I never got to play Cyrano.
So when you're doing poetry and when you're doing Shakespeare and so on, is it just easier for you to work with the language so that you lose the stutter? I'm curious about that.
I guess I do, but then it can happen. But it can happen anytime. It can all of a sudden, if I'm doing A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas, for the most part, it won't. Yeah, I mean, I can lose myself in the words, but no, I don't mean to make it, but it sits there. It sits there subconsciously, subliminally. It is there. It can happen if I get anxious or too nervous, and I love the words so much that maybe I do lose and for the most part of my career, I wouldn't be able, if it was so bad, I wouldn't have a career.
Do you think part of it is that you're not having to think about what you're saying? And when I say that, I'm saying you're not making it up. It's something that was written down and you've memorized it.
Right. I think that helps. I think that, yeah, I think you're right.
All right, so let's talk about character development. When you first get a script, especially something you've never seen before or read before, what are the first things that you do aside from reading it, which is the obvious thing? What do you start to do to develop a character?
Well, I just feel how it sits in my bones. And when I was reading The Father, I won at North Coast Rep, and I won another one of the awards down in San Diego for Best Actor, the one that Anthony Hopkins won the Oscar for.
Right.
And Frank Langella won the Tony for. It's funny. Whoever plays that part, the father with dementia, they win the award whenever they're playing it.
Sure.
But I just started. I think Anthony Hopkins says it too. I trust my instincts. I don't go into a whole lot of rigmarole, and I'll do some research with the father, say, taking that play about dementia and Alzheimer's, and we have people come in and talk to us. But I know when I read it, and I just trust my gut. I trust my instincts, Steve, that says this is one that especially if it's a new play. I mean, if it's Hamlet, or if it's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, when I'm playing George, I mean, I just know that I want to play that part. I mean, that is such a wonderful role and the Albee roles, and Arthur Miller, The Crucible. But then, I mean, I tend to play my career. I tend to play what I've done is the lead major roles is what I've wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played many of them. Cyrano, I did not, Lear, will I ever play Lear? I don't know. I mean, it's not a real bucket list for me.
It's the towering Shakespearean role, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's never one that's, I mean, and now I don't know if I could learn it now.
So you don't come at this from, let's call it, the method or any of these other techniques.
No, I come at it with my instincts and my guts. And the thing with Shakespeare, and it's just, I try to make it and people, when they hear me do Shakespeare, would say, I never understood it. You make it. I mean, that's my goal. I don't really care about the iambic pentameter and give me and all the. John Gielgud would turn over in his grave, but I just want to make it real. I want to make it real, and people go, "You make it so real. You make it sound like," and I understand what he's saying. If you can say it in a way, I don't know if Dakin, who you've had on, would agree with that. I don't know.
Dakin Matthews, who is a Shakespearean scholar.
Yeah. So I go so much, Steve, on my instincts and my feelings, and I'll do research during the rehearsal and things like that about.
What kind of research?
Well, just reading about, when doing The Father, about Alzheimer's and dementia and things. And then somebody comes in and talks to us, a doctor or psychologist or things about that. And I'll do that kind of, I truly trust my instincts in the acting part of it, and what I just tap into the part of me that is the truthful part I don't bog myself down with a lot of analytical things and going and people, and that drives me crazy in rehearsals when people are stopping and they're trying to explain everything. And I said, just can we just do it? Just do it. Just feel it. So where are we? Just talk to me.
Well, there's the famous story during Marathon Man when
Yeah,
Laurence Olivier was working with Dustin Hoffman, and Hoffman was trying to figure out his character, and Olivier allegedly turned to him and said, "Have you tried acting, my boy?"
No, that's true. No, that's a story that, and even Olivier, you would think is a technical, or maybe he's, but he's not method, of course. But no, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, but I'm certainly not the whole method thing. No.
Would you say there's a difference in how you approach an established, well-known play like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus a play nobody knows yet because it's new? Is there a difference in how you come at it, or is it always the same for you?
I think it's always the same. I don't, if it's a new play, I mean, I'll know, and I say no to new plays, and I read it and I just trust my instincts again. No, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right in my mouth. I'll do it out loud if I'm interested at all. Sometimes I know right away that, no, this is not for me. This is somebody else.
Do you have a method of breaking down a script, or do you just
No, I don't
memorize it?
I memorize it. Everybody does that differently. Some people recorded all the other lines, and they then they play it on the tape. And I've always done from the very beginning, back in college and things. I will just do it out loud. I'll just walk around the house and just doing it out loud with the script in my hand, and I read the other in my head. So then when I get into rehearsal and I hear these other people, I'm going, what is it? What is this? Blah, 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 blah. Come on. I don't. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't have all these methods and things.
That's actually great for the listeners to know. This is something that's important.
Yeah, it's the seat of my pants. Yeah, I trust my instincts. And then I trust if I have, and this doesn't happen all the time, of course, now with The Father it did and other plays, it's the director. The director, let me, and I mean, if I trust him, then no, James, we got to, no, look at this. We got to pull it back. I think we're just doing a little too much here. And, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And then I might resist at first, but then I'll go home and think about it and come back, and all of a sudden I'm doing what the suggestion, but the director is really important for me. I mean, in terms of a director who, and with The Father, that trusts me, that really trusts me. And because trusting me then allows me to freeze me up, because rehearsal is a birth. I mean, it's where you have to be able to fail. And many actors just don't have the nerve to just fails.
Does that freeze them?
I think so. Or it just limits them to their creativity if they're worried about failing or making the director unhappy or something, or the other actors, God forbid I should have the other actors see me be vulnerable. I mean, the vulnerability is, it's one thing I think I can tap into, that I'm not afraid of the emotions that I have.
So what are some of the important lessons that great directors that you've worked with have given you?
There isn't like a lesson that they say. No, they just, the ones that are just, that trust me. I mean, they trust, because because the biggest thing is casting. If they cast the right people, if the director casts the right person, then he's done 3/4 of his work. And then you just, but if you cast the wrong person in, as Othello, you're going to have a problem. That's one of the biggest jobs for a director, is having the right instinct and the right taste. But then, no, for me, a director that is trusting me and saying, James, you're here because I want you here, and they know my work. And so,
do you think the more famous directors, as you treat them differently in some way, like a Des McAnuff versus someone who nobody's ever heard of, or is it all the same for you? Is it one line?
I think it's Dan Sullivan, the director, Broadway director, who won Tonys, and we go back a long ways, way back in regional theater, and a great friend of mine, and he was just, again, like David Ellenstein, and Des is a little different. Des is more hands off, but Dan Sullivan he's just so allowing actors to find their way. He's not going to be talking to you and telling you, this and that, and you do it this way, do it that way. He's cast the right people, and he trusts them, and then he guides them, and those are the directors. And I don't know what Guthrie was like, or some of the other great directors from the Michael Langham at Stratford and people like that, or the other, the musical people, Jack O'Brien.
What is it that you don't want from a director?
Telling me how to do it. Or even and Dan Sullivan never. He just move however you feel. But and some directors know you got to move over here, you got to go there, you got to there. No, this line reading has to be quicker here, quicker there, and I hate the word pace. I hate the things, and
Why do you hate the word pace?
yeah, because then I feel like it's just artificial. Let me find the energy to have the pace. If you can give me other ways to get there besides saying, well, that's the thing you hear the most often in the theater is, okay, everybody, now is the last week of rehearsal. Okay, now we got to pick it up and go faster. And I mean, oh, geez. I mean, I always know it's coming, and I do my best to just say, okay, screw you.
Well, does that then
Well,
impact?
well, I'll tell you one thing. It makes me think, and this is being very, I don't know if it's vulnerable, but very real. When I hear pace, I don't know if I've ever said this when I hear pace and go fast, all I think of is I'm going to stutter.
Oh, interesting.
I'm going to stutter. If I have to start going faster, then the mind's going to go too much quicker than the mouth is going to be able to work. And so, which in real life, I can do it. I'm talking fast right now and all of that. But all of a sudden, well, you have to do it. And here's on the thing. And there's other, this is what I mean about it never goes away. And this is the truth. I don't think I've thought of it, but I know when I hear pace and quick, pick it up. Okay. All right. I don't know. The fear of the stutter will kick in, and I think that's a real trigger for me. So the pace thing, but it's said all the time.
That may explain why you have less of a desire to do farce or comedy, where sometimes that pace is important.
Yes, it is. It is. I think that's certainly. I think you're exactly right, and I don't think I've ever said it in an interview before, but I know it's there. I know that is, yes, the farces and the restoration, and I don't do. The other thing is I'm a very, I don't know why I've had this career that I've had, the stutter, but I have this little, well, you can't see me, but this little teeny talent that I don't do accents. I don't sing. I can't sing at all. I can't carry a tune. And because I can't carry, I think I'm not tone deaf, but accents are very difficult. I just can't do them, and I can't dance, and I can't sing, and I accent. So I just have this little thing that I do, a little Shakespeare here and there, and
And you play leading men, sort of straight men.
I'm a leading man. I was a leading man. Now I don't know what I am now. I mean, things are certainly winding down. I mean, it's not, but this is a very interesting thing we've tapped into, that this whole pace and the quickness and restoration comedy and noise, what's it called? Noises Off.
Noises Off is a Michael Frayn play.
Yeah, that play, all those shows that are so slamming the door and in and out, and they're not. I would never even think about auditioning for those.
Well, that's Fado, and that's all in and out of doors.
Yeah. But it's all to me speed, and speed means to me stutter.
Huh, interesting. You need to find, for lack of a better word, your own pace.
I do, which I think the history of looking at what you read off in the beginning, I think that obviously my pace, whatever I do, has been beneficial to me and to my work.
Do you find it's different for you when you're working in front of a camera versus on stage? I mean, you're only doing little pieces of time at a time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's different. It's maybe a little with the Andros targets and stuff, and all the other, not just the Andros targets, all the other things. I mean, if it's a particular long monologue or something in filming it, and it can be the same fears, the same thing, and it just depends on where my head is and how relaxed I am. And for the most part, I've learned to get relaxed and do it. But it's no, I think they're the same way.
Do the TV directors ever say to you, pick it up?
Yeah, they will.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Every director in every medium, bastards. No, they all do. That's their way, instead of saying it in some other way, which I can't give you an example right now, but there's another way to get around that without saying, oh, let's just go quicker and faster. I mean, but they don't know how to do it except saying.
Well, famously, Barry Sonnenfeld, the director, who was started as a DP, but he's a director, he famously has two forms of direction, faster and slower. And that's it. That's all he ever says.
Yeah. I guess if somebody if I knew him really well, Barry and I were friends, and he would say it to me in a way that I would know what he was, that it didn't mean, okay, just go so fast I can't.
So aside from pace notes, do you ever get notes from a director that you don't know how to handle and you'd have to figure out what they're trying to tell you and work it out with them? Does that ever happen?
Well, I'm sure it has, but I think I'll say, I don't understand what you mean. What are you talking about? Let's just get up and I just don't get it. So tell me, try and make this clearer. And then, and if they don't get offended by that,
All right. So you've talked about those kinds of things can give you some form of fear or anxiety or whatever it would be. And part of that is that you don't want to stutter, which is part of it. So that's a kind of pressure. When you feel that pressure, how do you handle it? What do you do to deal with pressure?
well, I mean, I just try and take a deep breath and relax. I mean, there's not much. I just, I mean, if it's on stage and at the time it's happening, it can be terrifying all of a sudden. But for the most part, it doesn't. For the most part, with the rehearsals and things, and I've learned how to. And if you're doing a film or movie of the week, I mean, you can obviously stop and go back. And if the director knows you well, and I said, sorry, this is getting too. No, I mean, you just have to take a deep breath and I mean, unless you want to take drugs or something or do something.
Well, I've talked to any number of actors who have varying degrees of, dealing with pressure, whether they meditate or whether they run or
Yeah, I don't do that.
you don't have any specific technique. It's just trying to calm down.
No, I don't have it. No, I don't have no. I mean, I just take a deep breath and trying to remember that, you can do this and relax. And if it happens in rehearsal, then it's okay. And if it's on film, you can go back.
Does it ever happen to you?
No, I don't have, I suppose I should have some sort of, I have the yoga, the meditation. I go into a whole trance and I do I don't. I just go by the seat of my pants again, and let's just hope for the best.
So does it affect you if you need to go on an audition? You still audition these days?
I don't like to audition. I never have because it scares me so much that although people say I'm really a good auditioner. See, so I think the fear just drives me. I work so hard at the audition piece because of fear that I'm not going to be able to. So I work on it over and over and over. Other people do too, but I still at times I don't audition as much as I used to. Thank goodness. But
what is your philosophy toward auditioning aside from you don't want to do it, but it's a necessary evil? How do you approach it? It's just prep?
Preparation. It's all preparation. I'm just so prepared, and I don't like to memorize it completely. I'll have the script in my hand, but I know it so well.
Why don't you like to memorize it completely? Why?
Because I'll use that because that's not what you're paying me. You're not paying me for that. When you pay me, I'll put down the script, and I don't know. It's like come on. I mean, I'm auditioning, and this is not the final thing, but I know it so well that I'm not looking down at the script much. But I think today, and I don't audition as much today as I used to. I think they say, and we want this memorized or something, which is just bullshit. I think it's wrong.
And a lot of it, I imagine, is on camera, not in person.
Well, not if it's all self tapes now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's something nice about that because you can get it exactly how you want it on a self tape. You can do it over 30 times, but without the director in the room and saying, I'd like to be in the room and the director saying, let's go back and because I like making adjustments, which can actually be, let's make it, move it along a little more or something, then I freeze a little bit, but I do, but usually it's something else, and, but when you're in the room with but two or three people, they get to see the whole essence of who you are.
Sure.
And I depend on that. I trust who I am. If they're going to like this person, and that's a huge part of how they cast, how they like somebody, if they think they can work with them. But with self tapes, they do. Then a lot of times, after the self tape, you go in and on a personal, an audition.
Right. Well, sure.
With the people, but not every time. I mean, a lot of my friends get jobs just from the self tape.
Do you come at your preparation different? Obviously, if you're doing a stage play, you're going to have 4 weeks of rehearsal or whatever the rehearsal period is, but you're likely to have little or no rehearsal on a TV show or on a movie or a commercial.
Right.
So do you approach your prep on those two different things very differently? Do you memorize differently? Are you forced to do more deep memorization?
I memorize the same way. I mean, certainly with the rehearsals, it's 4 weeks. I go into rehearsal now with 4 weeks with a play, and I know the play. I mean, I didn't used to do that, but now I need to know. I'm older, and I want to know, and I like it. I don't want to have that script in my hand, when we're moving around. And
you come in fully off book.
Yeah, fully off book when I go in and they're huge parts usually, and I'm off book. And George in Virginia Woolf and the father.
All right. So how long did it take you to memorize that part?
George?
Yes, George. And as an example of what it takes you to do.
Yeah. When I was younger, I think I had 2 months before rehearsals. And I think, so maybe I had 2 months to I mean, now people know they're doing a play 6 months in advance. I mean, they know something. If I was doing Lear, I would need 6 months. I would need, and I could do it. And it's all good for my brain. Doing the one-man show I'm doing now is an hour and 20 minutes.
What's the name of your one-man show?
It's My Life with Will. Go back to Shakespeare. My Life with Will, an evening with Will Shakespeare and James Sutorius.
Well, certainly if any of the listeners are ever lucky enough to have a chance to see it wherever it might be,
Yeah.
whether in Los Angeles or elsewhere,
Yeah.
you should check it out.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing it soon here, but who knows? It keeps going on, and maybe it's good. It's my journey within Shakespeare, being a part of going back to college.
And it's a one-man show, so you have no net. You've got no one to fall back on.
No, I don't have any. No, I got nobody to. I do have, and which I haven't gone. I've done it now 4 or 5, 6 times. Only once have I. I keep the script on the stage on the prop table with other props, just in case. Hey, it's why. Hey, it's my one-man show. If I need to go over and say, I don't know where I am right now. I mean, it's just me. I'll go over and let me just see where I am.
Has that happened?
It happened once in the first, but people thought it was part of the show. People thought it was, and they loved it. And they thought it was part of the whole thing. It's the way you did it was, but it, knock on wood, you can hear that. It hasn't happened since. And I'm doing 4 more now at the end of this month. But it can happen any moment. I mean, any moment. It's amazing how you just going along, blah, blah, blah. And I have no idea if you get distracted at all. But I have the script there, and I think an audience likes it in a way. They like the mistakes. They like the thing. Just and say, I have no idea where I am right now. So let me and they don't care.
That to me is part of the beauty of the live theater, is that you're never seeing the same performance twice.
Exactly. And that's why I think the theater has always been frightening to me. It's just all crazy with me. It does frighten me. It does, but I'm just so passionate about it and love it so much. And then when you do it, and you're doing the one-man show this last in May, the response you get, it just makes everything fall into place. This is why I do this. This is why I love. This is where I want to be, and to have this to people it's funny and it's moving, and I guess that's what all these years of doing it. It's that satisfaction and laughter. And again, people don't think of me, but I make people laugh a lot in my work, and I don't know, that sounds egotistical, but I find it. Right?
Well, no, you're stating a fact. Yeah. If you are doing things and people laugh, you're making them laugh.
Yeah, I just find it. I find the humor in almost, and it's one-man show. Certainly has a lot of humor because it's me just talking and doing things, and then all of a sudden I roll into Shakespeare, and I roll into Macbeth, and I roll into Lear, and I roll into all these. But it's all about the journey with me and talking about the stutter. I mean, if I'm going to do my one-man show, it's going to be talking about the stutter.
Of course.
And it's happening, and how it happened in the Hamlet that I did at Wesleyan, my first Hamlet. I've done Hamlet 3 times, and 2 professional, but I did it at Wesleyan when I was a junior, and it was great. And that's where I'm going back to do the one-man show, which is full circle. But it happened.
So what do you do to keep your instrument in shape? Do you do vocal exercises? Do you physically do exercises?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't sing, but I'll sing in the car. I'll sing, that's about it. But no, I'll do. My voice has stayed strong over all these. I think maybe the breathing and the diaphragmatic thing, which the teacher, when I'm doing a George in Virginia Woolf or some of the other ones, when you're doing it all day, and it just builds up the strength in your muscles and the things. But I'll do exercises. I mean, now with the one-man show coming, I'll do exercises during the day, and walk around going, the I'm doing the thing, and my neighbors I'm in a townhouse, probably knocking on the door right now. But I'm disciplined about so many things, but I don't do vocal exercise.
Do you do physical exercises to keep your body in shape?
Well, I go to the gym a lot, and I go to the park and I used to run, and then I jogged, and now I power walk and jog, and I play golf a lot. I'm a big golfer, but the body that now says, I don't want to do this. What are you doing? Because golfing is twisting, and
it is.
Yeah, it's hard, but I love it. And I go to the gym, and I don't do yoga, and I don't do Pilates, and I went to a stretch lab for a while where they stretch you. It's called a stretch lab, and because my back gives me problems. I thought that might help.
It happens.
Yeah, it didn't help.
What do you do when you're between gigs and don't have something booked?
Play golf.
What do you do?
Play golf.
You play golf.
No, I read a lot. I go to the park in the morning. I have the regimen. I go to the park and do the walking 3 or 4 miles and jogging, and then I'll come home and just the paper and something, the news on the news, and then I'll go and practice a lot with the golf and stuff like that, and then now I have friends I see at night. I mean, that's the other thing too. Other people say, "Well, I write. I tell you, I just do this one little thing. Um, I have no desire to direct or to write. I could never be a writer. I mean, it's not in me. It's amazing how these people. Well, you write. I mean, it's just.
I do.
I don't know how you do it. Blank page.
Well, it's the same thing as when people ask you how do you act. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, right. No, I'm sure. No, I'm sure. And one of my dear friends is a great writer. I mean, not that you would know him, but written some novels and things. And he wrote the one man show that I do. He was my college roommate.
Oh, is that right?
Dear friends, yeah. And he wrote the one man show, and I didn't know he was writing it. And I said he remembered all these things that I said, Dennis, what? How did I don't remember that all. James. Well, you did this, and well, that was part of this. But he's a great writer.
And so what then today then most inspires you? Is it certain dramatic plays? What do you get your inspiration from?
I can watch a commercial on TV and I'll get inspired, and how much, and all of a sudden I'll be crying when some song can come on, or something I can be on YouTube and somebody can be singing, it just, and I don't go to the theater a lot, but I mean, acting, when I see something that, or something, even if it's on YouTube or something, but I get inspired, and that's what with people, which makes, again, why I do this thing. When people see the work and they see that back to the one man, it's just because I'm so, I think, honest with it. It's so inspiring, James. It's just so inspiring to have you to be honest about what you go through and what's happening, how you did. But I can get inspired by almost every day. There's something that would be I'll see, on YouTube or something like that,
So you're still finding growth and inspiration all the time.
It happens all the time, and it spurs me on. Like, hopefully, I can spur people on, that are younger. And when I'm taking the one man show to a college now, going back to the college, Illinois Wesleyan, I'm going to and that's where the show, a lot of it's about Wesleyan, and hopefully these students, the drama students, when they hear it, the one thing you'd want is I'm not Tom Hanks or George Clooney or Brad Pitt, but this is a regular actor that had a career, and made a living. I've never made a penny. And a lot of that's because of Ragu. But 15 years, I've never made a penny doing anything but acting. Not a penny, because Ragu spaghetti sauce, that's Italian. And that's the truth. That's the truth. The lady said, go in for this voiceover. I said, what's a voiceover? I had no idea. And I got it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And I think it's because my mother bought every jar of Ragu on the shelf. She just bought them.
And that was not on camera. That was voice only, right?
Yeah, just voice. Yeah, you can still, if you go to YouTube and bring up Ragu, I sound younger, but there I am. I mean, I'm doing, and I would say other stuff, old world style with sausage, blah, blah, blah. And then Ragu spaghetti sauce. That's Italian. And that was it. I mean, that was the whole thing.
Have you done other voiceover work too, like for cartoons?
I'm going to tell you something, Steve. It's so, don't get me frustrated now. I still loved it. Back then, maybe because I'm just not that good, but nobody knew about them then. Nobody knew. It was back in the 70s, early 80s, 70s, 80s, maybe. And but now everybody, every living creature is up for, and the celebrities, and so and my guy still sends me, and I just say, I hate to even admit it, but it just, I like what I do, and they sound great, and my agent likes them, and then who knows why I don't get it. So,
well, you've earned the right at this point to be much pickier than you were when you were young.
No, I mean, I would do. No, I mean, I don't read for just any, but I'm not a celebrity or anything. I'm just a regular journeyman actor
You're a working actor.
Yeah, I'm a working actor who's had it's a blessing career. And if I could say to somebody, you want to take the chance to be George Clooney, or you want to have my career? Well, the odds are you got to take my career when you make a living at this, because the odds of being George Clooney and Tom Hanks and things like that, it's a rare 1% less. I mean, it's just, but I've had, and I forget sometimes that
You've also had one of those careers where you love what you do. You're not trying to be famous by doing it. You're doing it because you love it.
Yeah. And that was the very beginning why I did it. And just being the best. And that's what you just got to be the best actor you can be. I mean, things then happen. Sometimes it does take some luck in being coming around the right corner at the right time and things like that. But
At this point in your career, do you think that there's anything that you are still trying to figure out that you would like to learn about the craft? Anything?
no, I don't. I don't feel that way, to be honest. Every time I do something, when I do the one man show in a few weeks, I'll learn something about that. But there's not something. But I video. I mean, we video something they call it when they filmed it last time I did it, and I learned from that, Steve. I'm watching it and I see, and people loved it. That's why we're doing it again, because it wasn't my idea, but they loved it. But I'll watch it and I'll go, boy, I know how much they love this, but that's not right. That's not. So the excitement now to do it again is really see where I want to improve it, slow it down here. Why are you, the things like, why are you using your hands so much? What is with your hands all over the place? So it's things like that. I guess the basic acting of it stays the same, but it's just little things that I know that I'm looking forward to slowing some things down, taking my time, doing, but you go by the response from when people were there, and that response was magical. And then I watch it and I'm going, what the hell were they talking about? I mean, it was actually took me back, to be honest. It was it really was, I'm trying to find the right word, but it was disturbing that I went into it loving the two shows I did. The response was, and then watching it, and plus people say it's so hard to watch.
See, it's hard to watch yourself.
Yeah. And
You're hypercritical.
yeah, I didn't like, for one thing, I'm not going to wear. I didn't like what I wore. Something as simple as that. I had a jersey on that I was wrong. So when I do it again, I'm going to have a
Well,
different.
do you have a costumer or you just pick it yourself?
No, I do that. No. Well, I have a director, my friend, who's great, director of the show.
And you needed that. You didn't want to self-direct.
No, I wanted him. No, he's great. Leo Marks directed it. No, and he was great. No, he's
the original audience. He gives you the feedback, yeah?
yeah, and he's great actor and great director for me, and totally trusts me. And he makes me feel, again, we're going back to it makes me just feel so. If you're comfortable, then you're relaxed, and you can have creativity, and you can be free. And Leo allowed me and just supported me so well that I made me so confident. And so yeah, no, and so we went through what I wore in San Diego when I first did it was a shirt. It doesn't make any difference at the time. But then I changed it to a jersey in LA here, and he was okay with that. But then I realized it was not flattering and things. So that bothered me watching it. And I didn't know that at the time when I was doing it. I mean, I didn't know. I thought this was so, those are little, but and I have now finally let people see the video. I wasn't letting anybody, because I have it, but doesn't mean anybody has to see it but me. No, it's true. So I sent it to somebody who's not a theater, well, a little bit, a friend in Florida, and she saw it 2 nights ago. She had to see it on her phone, and she just was, James, this is, God, it's just so wonderful. You're brilliant in this, and that helps, because she's not seeing what I see. I just sent it to my brother in Florida too.
You're undoubtedly your harshest critic.
I sometimes I think I don't know. Yeah. I mean, some stuff I watch, and the movies, the TV, and a play that North Coast, or during COVID, we filmed a play called Trying at North Coast Rep with 3 cameras.
Right.
I mean, during the one man show was just one camera way in the back, and it wasn't but this was 3 cameras and cutting in and editing, and I loved that. I played Francis Biddle, Attorney General of Franklin Roosevelt, and really in two-hander, and the girl was great. And I'm hoping to do it. I've never done it on stage. It was because it was COVID, so there was all the theaters were shut down.
Right, sure.
But I'm hoping to do it but huge part. That took prep. I did a lot of prep for that, about Francis Biddle, reading about Francis Biddle, and in the Nuremberg trials, he was the judge.
And you like the big parts. The bigger, the better.
I do. I've mainly played big parts. I guess when you're looking back at the theater, I'm not. People would have more quality, more quantity than me. But I think my quality of the parts I played, McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest, which I don't know if that play's done anymore, but One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, back at.
Where did you do that play?
Stage West.
Stage West.
It's called Stage West in Massachusetts. I don't think it's there anymore. But those are the parts that I started out playing, was, McMurphy and parts like that, and the Hamlets and Macbeth and things like that, and other. But I've mainly been character leading man. I'm not going to. Yeah, I guess I'd be
As opposed to what? A romantic leading man?
the romantic. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I've ever played a real romantic.
You never got the girl?
I don't know. I've probably got some girl somewhere. I don't know. I don't know. On TV, I was usually the villain. I mean, the Andros Targets, the series I did for CBS, so I never had maybe if it had gone on, we only did it for one season, maybe I would have had a romantic interest.
You played an investigative reporter, right?
Yeah. Mike Andros, New York Forum. It was all after All the President's Men, and Nicholas Gage, who wrote for the New York Times, wrote it. He was the one behind it, and I got that out. I mean, how I got that? I was just doing a play down off Broadway called at the Cherry, doing a Mammoth play, called Sexual Perversity
in Chicago. Yeah.
At the Cherry Lane. It was great, with Peter Riegert. And I had taken over from F. Murray Abraham, did it originally. And I took over, and all of a sudden CBS, I auditioned for this TV series, and I got it. I remember doing the play at the Cherry, all the CBS executives came down to the Cherry Lane to see me do Sexual Perversity. And I got it. I mean, I was just a kid. It was great. I mean, that led me to LA and then doing stuff there. But shooting in New York at that time, I mean, every episode, it was 1977, 78, and every episode was a Patti LuPone, Richard Kiley, George Rose. I mean, because there was the only one in town. They didn't shoot in New York then, the TV series. It was amazing. Every episode.
So you got all the Broadway actors to be in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just amazing. Amazing. I love Richard Kiley.
Well, he was a great actor.
So great. Yeah. If I could do Man of La Mancha and sing, I can't. I mean, there's so many. I mean, Camelot. I would guess Richard Burton, I suppose. But I can't. It's just not going to happen.
I have been having just so much fun having this wonderful conversation for almost an hour now with James Sutorius, and we're going to wind the show down just a little bit now. And you've already given us a lot of really interesting stories to chew on, but I'm wondering, in all of your experiences, can you share with us a story that's either weird, quirky, offbeat, strange, or just plain funny?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of those, to tell you the truth. I mean, it certainly is very funny when you're doing Hamlet and you go out there. The soliloquies in Hamlet or Shakespeare, you're out there alone, so you better not, And if you go to be or not to be,
line,
and have no idea where you are, that is, you're up the creek with that is the question. But I've gone, but I'll get back to, I think, which is a fun story because he's so great. But I have, the Shakespeare, when you're out there alone in a soliloquy, I have gone up, and then it's amazing how you feel in your body. It is incredible when it just goes blank, and because you can't see me now, but and then something to you is like 30 minutes, but it's seconds. And then you kick in maybe a line, or you skip a line, but you get back on. Then after the show, you're saying to your friends, my God, I'm so sorry. Did you see that? And they have no idea. What are you talking about? None. I don't know. But I was doing a big miniseries called Space with James Garner, who I love James Garner. He was great. May he rest in peace. And it was James Michener's Space, and 16 hours for CBS. And now he's a senator and I'm his aide. So I'm with him all the time, and he's smoking, and he's a real curmudgeon, and it's like I am now. He's just all the, and now he knows my name is Sutorius, but he prefers to call me Superfluous. So it's always, has anybody seen Superfluous? And my folks come to the set, and he goes, "Hey, everybody, they're here, Mr. and Mrs. Superfluous." And and then I must say, a year later, Steve, I was at a screening, and Garner and I didn't keep up. He was a big golfer too, though. Great guy. And the lights come up at the screening, and I didn't know he was there. And he's way across the aisle, and he looks over and he sees me, and he goes, "Hey, Superfluous." Like, it had been a year, and that's always a great.
Anytime you can get a major star to give you a name.
A name, Superfluous. And then he remembers it for the whole. He just, he knew my name. He just had fun with. So my friends now here around, hey, Superfluous. They will say, because they know this. Actually, this story is in the one-man show about when I'm doing my TV work. So I have to put that in the one-man show about, because it's a great little thing that he.
That's a wonderful little story.
So that's that with that.
Final question for you today, James. You've given us huge amounts of advice all along the way here, but I'm wondering, do you have a solid piece of advice that you like to give young people or people just starting out in the business, or maybe they're in a little bit trying to get to that next level?
Yeah, when I go back to the college and where I started Wesleyan and do the show and talk to the students, I mean, it's just when I was just be the. I don't know if that, but today it just seems like it's fame and fortune. I want to come to LA. I want to be a movie star. Come on, just be the best actor you can be. Just work and discipline and whatever that means in terms of working of if it's Shakespeare or Moliere or Ibsen, or just be the best. Things will happen. I mean, just have the discipline and the, and the passion for the craft, and not all the extenuating other things that can get in the way. And if that means going to school and acting school and whatever that would be, but it's just being the best actor you can be, and then let the chips fall where they will. But don't get distracted by other. I mean, it's easy to say those things. I mean, I know but that's all I cared about when I was then going to acting school, and it's just being the best actor I could be. And then all of a sudden I'm doing Hamlet and I'm doing a TV series, and things can happen from being, hey, this guy's really good. But if you're not training to be really good, and then, I mean, it's just, I guess just discipline, be disciplined.
I think that that's extremely wise advice, because if you're trying to go into show business, let's call it that as a whole, just because you want fame or money, you're in the wrong place, really, because the people who have that discipline that you're talking about are going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, you need a break, you need something, I mean, I'm not saying, but if you're a singer, again, things that if you're a singer in New York and taking all your singing lessons and dancing lessons and then acting, and then you're just doing everything to be and I know people do, but to be the best at what you do. And all that means is the discipline of every day. And I mean, that's why in the laundry room, at Wesleyan in Franklin Hall, I went in the laundry room, and I'm telling you, I practiced and practiced and practiced. And I was annoying to everybody, but I was in there doing Shakespeare. And I can't believe I did this. I don't think I'd have the nerve now. But I was in the laundry. There's no other place to go. And maybe it pays off. Maybe the ragu, because of my voice. And she said, I love your voice, my commercial agent, and you got to go. I don't know. So it paid off. You just don't know, but just
do the work.
Do the work. People don't. I don't think some do, of course, but just people would say, "Oh, I do," but I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do. They would say, "Oh, I do the work." Yeah, sure. Let me see what that means. Let me follow you around for a week. And see what that means.
Well, James Sutorius, this has been a wonderful hour on StoryBeat, and I can't thank you enough for your time, your energy, and especially your wisdom in all this. Oh. And so I thank you greatly.
Well, I thank you. I guess I'll put my clothes back on now. Is that what I do? Wasn't that the very beginning, the changing room? I don't
Indeed.
know. It's been great. No, it goes by so fast, Steve. It's just great. And I don't get a chance to talk. And I said some stuff today that I don't think it was very revealing for me, too.
I'm delighted that you revealed those things, and my great thanks to you.
Yeah. And why not? Yeah, why not? Well, thank you, Steve. This has been a great pleasure.
And so we've come to the end of today's StoryBeat. If you like this episode, won't you please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. StoryBeat is available on all major podcast apps and platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and many others. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.